Alien scouts detected a human armada. Seconds later, their systems overloaded. The scout vessel drifted silently through the void, its sleek hull reflecting nothing but darkness. Commander Vex stood at the observation deck, his forearms clasped behind his elongated torso as he studied the star charts. The Dominion had ruled this sector for 3,000 cycles, and their technology was considered supreme among the known species. "Commander, we're approaching the coordinates," Lieutenant Kral announced from his station. His tentacled appendages danced across the holographic controls with practiced precision. "The primitive species should be somewhere in this system." Vex turned his triangular head slightly, his three eyes focusing on different displays simultaneously. "The humans," he said, the word rolling off his tongue with dismissive ease. "Intelligence reports suggest they've barely mastered fusion power. This reconnaissance should be routine." The Dominion High Command had dispatched 12 scout vessels to survey the outer territories, searching for resources and potential slave species. Earth had been flagged as a low-priority target, its inhabitants deemed too primitive to pose any threat. The humans had only achieved faster-than-light travel within the last solar rotation, according to intercepted communications. "Engaging deep scan protocols," Kral reported. His voice carried the confidence of someone who had performed this task countless times before. Their home system should be visible within moments. The bridge hummed with quiet efficiency as the crew went about their duties. Navigator Torque plotted potential extraction routes while Science Officer Nex analyzed atmospheric compositions of nearby planets. Everything proceeded according to standard protocol. Then the sensors detected something. "Commander." Kral's voice shifted, uncertainty creeping into his tone. "I'm reading unusual energy signatures ahead." Vex moved toward the sensor station, his elongated form gliding across the deck. "Define unusual, Lieutenant." "Multiple contacts, sir. They appear to be vessels, but the readings are inconsistent with our database on human technology." The main viewing screen flickered to life, displaying a cascade of data that made Vex's three eyes widen simultaneously. Where they expected to find perhaps a dozen crewed vessels, the sensors revealed hundreds of contacts. "No, thousands, that's impossible," Nex whispered, his pale skin flushing purple with anxiety. "The humans don't have the industrial capacity for such a fleet." Vex leaned forward, studying the readings. Each vessel registered power outputs that exceeded their projections by orders of magnitude. The smallest ships in the formation generated more energy than a Dominion battlecruiser. "Enhance resolution on Sector 7. The screen zoomed in, revealing the true scale of what lay before them. Massive dreadnoughts floated in perfect formation, their hulls bristling with weapons arrays that defied conventional design. Between them, swarms of smaller craft moved in coordinated patterns that suggested a level of tactical integration the Dominion had never achieved. "Sir, they're powering weapons," Torque announced, his voice cracking. "All of them." The scout vessel's systems began to strain under the incoming data. Warning lights flashed across multiple consoles as processors struggled to categorize and analyze the sheer volume of information flooding their sensors. The humans hadn't just built a fleet. They had constructed an armada that dwarfed anything in Dominion records. How did intelligence miss this? Vex demanded, though he knew the question was pointless now. "Begin emergency protocols. We need to warn the High Command." Kral's tentacles moved frantically across his station. "Sir, I can't establish a connection. Their ships are generating some kind of interference field. Our long-range communications are being blocked." A new alarm sounded. On the main screen, a section of space seemed to ripple and tear. Another human fleet emerged from what appeared to be a controlled spatial distortion, doubling the already incomprehensible number of vessels surrounding them. "They're using dimensional phase technology," Nex breathed, his scientific mind racing to comprehend what he was seeing. That's theoretically impossible for a species at their supposed development level. Vex felt something he hadn't experienced in cycles: fear. The Dominion had conquered worlds for millennia, based on their technological superiority. They had enslaved species and stripped planets bare, secure in their dominance, but the humans had hidden their true capabilities, presenting themselves as primitive while developing weapons and ships that made Dominion technology look antiquated. "Sir, our primary systems are overloading," an engineering officer reported from the lower deck. "The sensor array can't process this much data. We're experiencing cascade failures across multiple subsystems." Sparks erupted from a nearby console, followed by another, then another. The scout vessel's computers, designed to analyze and catalog inferior civilizations, couldn't handle the complexity of what they were observing. Each human vessel seemed to operate on principles that violated established physics, using energy manipulation techniques that shouldn't exist. "Initiate retreat protocol," Vex ordered, though he suspected it was already too late. "Maximum acceleration away from the human fleet." "Navigation is offline," Torque reported, panic evident in his voice. "Primary, secondary, and tertiary systems have all failed. We're dead in space." Through the viewing port, Vex could see the human vessels adjusting their positions. They moved with impossible coordination, thousands of ships acting as a single entity. The largest dreadnought, a behemoth that dwarfed even Dominion command carriers, began to approach their position. "They knew we were coming," Krall said quietly, understanding dawning in his voice. "This was a trap," Vex nodded slowly. The humans had allowed themselves to be underestimated, had deliberately fed false intelligence to the Dominion scouts and spies. They had waited patiently for someone to come looking, and when the Dominion had finally arrived, they had revealed their true nature. A communication signal penetrated their failing systems, somehow bypassing every encryption and firewall the scout vessel possessed. The bridge's main screen flickered and displayed a human figure. The being stood upright on two legs, lacking the multiple limbs and appendages that most spacefaring species possessed. By all conventional metrics, it should have been weak, inferior. "Greetings, Commander Vex," the human said, speaking perfect Dominion standard despite it being a closely guarded language. "I am Admiral Thompson of the Terran Defense Force. Your vessel has been disabled and your fleet communication capabilities have been neutralized." Vex struggled to maintain composure. "How do you know our language?" "Our names?" The human's expression remained neutral. "We've been monitoring Dominion communications for quite some time. Your encryption methods were challenging, but not insurmountable. We know about your reconnaissance missions, your slave raids, and your resource extraction protocols. If you know of the Dominion's power, then you know resistance is futile," Vex said, falling back on familiar threats. "Our empire spans 10,000 systems. You may have surprised a single scout, but you cannot stand against our full might." Admiral Thompson's mouth curved slightly in what humans called a smile. "Commander, you're operating under several misconceptions. First, you're not the only scout we've intercepted today. All 12 of your reconnaissance vessels are currently surrounded by Terran forces. Second, we're not interested in standing against your empire. We're interested in ending it." The lights on the scout vessel's bridge dimmed as more systems failed. In the darkness, the glow from the human armada seemed to grow brighter, their ship's energy signatures painting space itself with power. "You see, Commander," the Admiral continued, "humanity has a saying, speak softly and carry a big stick. We've been speaking very softly for a very long time, letting the galaxy think we were primitive, backwards, barely worth notice. But we've also been building our stick." Through the viewing port, Vex watched as more human vessels emerged from dimensional rifts. The numbers were incomprehensible. If each scout vessel was seeing similar numbers, the human fleet numbered in the millions. Every species you've enslaved, every world you've stripped bare, every civilization you've destroyed. "We know about them all," Admiral Thompson said. "We've spent decades preparing, studying your tactics, your technology, your weaknesses. We reverse-engineered your captured probes, improved upon your designs, and developed countermeasures for every weapon in your arsenal." The scout vessel shuddered as its structural integrity began to fail. The overload from trying to process the human fleet's data had caused irreversible damage to core systems. "Your empire ends today, Commander," the Admiral stated with finality. "Not through conquest, but through liberation. Every slave world will be freed. Every resource world will be returned to its rightful inhabitants. The Dominion's reign of terror is over." Vex wanted to respond, to threaten or negotiate, but the words wouldn't come. The mighty Dominion, which had ruled for millennia, had been outsmarted by a species they had dismissed as primitive. The humans hadn't just built weapons. They had built a force designed specifically to dismantle everything the Dominion represented. "We're offering you a choice," Admiral Thompson continued. "Surrender unconditionally and your people will be treated humanely. Resist and you'll discover that humanity's capacity for war exceeds even our capacity for pay.